You're watching a Highwire Media podcast. The first wave of free agency has come and gone, and we're going to talk about that. Hello and welcome to the Big D Breakdown. I'm your host, Larry Leese, and on today's episode, we're diving into all the latest offseason news that impacts the Dallas Cowboys. Before we do that, give me your thoughts on the topics we cover in the comment section below, and give me your take on the status of the Cowboys. And with that, let's dive into today's first topic. We're going to take a look at two of the biggest winners and losers from the Cowboys' first wave of free agency. The Dallas Cowboys have addressed some of their issues in free agency, but they certainly didn't fix everything. While the Dallas Cowboys have undoubtedly been a bit more aggressive to open this NFL offseason than they were a year ago, it's not as if they've made any genuinely groundbreaking moves. Sure, they took care of some in-house business, re-signing the likes of Osa Odighizuwa, CJ Goodwin, Brock Hoffman, Tyrus Wheat, Marquise Bell, Trent Sieg, Cavante Turpin, and Brian Anger. And bringing back Dante Fowler Jr., while also signing Peyton Turner and Solomon Thomas to shore up their defensive line, weren't bad moves. Turner and Thomas aren't game-changing by any means, but they were ridiculously cheap, so it works for depth purposes. On the flip side of things, however, America's team said goodbye to quite a few notable names and key contributors, which includes DeMarcus Lawrence to the Seahawks, Jordan Lewis to the Jags, Chauncey Golston to the Giants, Rico Dowdle to the Panthers, and Cooper Rush to the Ravens. And how excited should Cowboy fans really be about a backfield of Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams, or giving up multiple draft picks for disappointing first-round linebacker Kenneth Murray? The Kader Elam trade could also be included in this particular group, but there's still some potential upside, so we'll reserve judgment on that one for now. So, who have been the biggest winners and losers for the Cowboys thus far this offseason? Let's take a look. Starting off with our winner, Osa Odighizuwa. This is a bit of a cop-out, as it's easy to call Osa a winner after signing a new $80 million deal that would keep him in Dallas for the next 4 years. But just because it's easy doesn't mean it's not true. And honestly, given the market, this can almost be seen as a steal. Furthermore, the contract has zero guaranteed money attached to it over the final 2 years, which essentially makes it a 2-year contract with a pair of team options. So, Jerry Jones undoubtedly deserves some credit here. Coming off a campaign where he recorded career highs in total tackles of 47, quarterback hits at 23, and 4.5 sacks, Osa should be able to up those numbers even more, as he'll be a fantastic fit in the 4-3 scheme of new defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus. So our first loser, Dak Prescott. For starters, Dak Prescott has to be thrown in the loser category due to the retirement of Zack Martin. While Robert Jones, who started all 17 games for the Miami Dolphins a season ago, is currently number 1 on the Cowboys depth chart at right guard, Dallas may end up finding a new starter in the draft. But regardless of who ultimately ends up at that position, Prescott won't have the protection he had behind the future Hall of Famer. But that's not the biggest issue for Dak right now. That, of course, is the fact that the Cowboys have done absolutely nothing to get him another elite receiver to play opposite CeeDee Lamb. Sure, new addition Paris Campbell caught 63 passes for over 600 yards and 3 touchdowns for the Colts in 2022, but that's the only time in his 6-year career that he's recorded more than 20 catches. With so many high-profile wideouts finding new homes thus far, whether in free agency or via trade, Prescott can't be pleased that the Cowboys whiffed in this regard. And our next winner, Dante Fowler Jr. On one hand, Dante Fowler Jr. can be seen as a loser here, as his now former team, the Commanders, have to be seen as a better overall team than the Cowboys at this point. So that's one way to look at it. On the other hand, however, it was quite clear that he wasn't going to get the $8 million he got from Dallas from the Commanders. So kudos to his agent for locking that up. From a production standpoint, Fowler had his best season in 5 years in 2024, recording 39 total tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 10.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and an interception which he returned for a touchdown, marking the first pick 6 of his career. Those numbers are far better than anything he did in his previous stint with the Cowboys. So perhaps Dallas got a good deal here. And next, our final loser, Micah Parsons. No matter how many times we do this particular type of episode, we have to put Micah Parsons on their loser list until he signs his new contract. And that's all there is to say about that. And now on to our next topic. The Cowboys have an obvious cut to make after first week of free agency. A year after claiming to be all in, the Dallas Cowboys promised to be selectively aggressive this offseason. There is still a long way to go, and they certainly aren't a better team than when the season ended. But they have lived up to the selectively aggressive slogan. The running back position is in good shape following the signings of Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. Assuming Williams and Sanders compete for the number 2 job, the Cowboys are well positioned to select their starter in next month's draft. Other than running back, defensive end, and linebacker are the only other positions that have multiple new faces since free agency started. This roster is nowhere near stacked enough for the front office to cut players willy-nilly, but one release candidate sticks out like a sore thumb after the first wave. Unironically, that player plays a position that has undergone a slight renovation. Cowboys may cut Damone Clark after recent linebacker moves. Damone Clark is seemingly the odd man out in the linebacker room. The Cowboys traded for former first-round pick Kenneth Murray and will pay all of his upcoming 2025 salary. While Murray only cost a 6th-round pick and Dallas got back a 7th-rounder from the Titans, it is fair to assume he'll have a major role in Matt Eberflus's defense. Depending on what Dallas does at the position the rest of free agency, Murray could wear the green dot for Eberflus when all is said and done. The team also signed restricted free agent Jack Sanborn, a high-energy defender who couldn't quite crack the Bears' starting lineup the last 3 seasons. Sanborn isn't a guaranteed starter, but his familiarity with Eberflus leads us to think he'll play a key depth role. That leaves DeMarvion Overshawn, who could miss most, if not all, of next season as he recovers from a devastating knee injury. And promising second-year man Maurice Lefau might not be ready to wear the green dot, but he's locked in as a building block for the defense. The front office probably doesn't have the leeway to cut Clark right this second. That could change on a dime, though, depending on if they re-sign Eric Kendricks or sign another veteran. Furthermore, Alabama stud Jayad Campbell should be in the mix for Dallas with the number 12 pick. Whatever the case may be, the Cowboys likely aren't done adding to their LB room. Eberflus' arrival could be good news for Clark, but he played just 163 defensive snaps last season, compared to 784 the year before. The writing seems to be on the wall for the former 5th-rounder. And now on to our next topic. Cowboys' rival is scheming to steal the perfect Cooper Rush replacement from Dallas. As expected, the Dallas Cowboys have endured some major losses in free agency. Like we mentioned, Lewis, Lawrence, and Rico headlined the first wave of departures. The Jaguars made Lewis the NFL's highest-paid nickel cornerback, while Lawrence got a 3-year, $42 million deal, with $18 million guaranteed from Seattle. Dowell's market wasn't as big as expected, but he got to go home to Carolina with a contract worth up to $6.25 million. The exodus continued into the weekend when Ravens inked quarterback Cooper Rush to a 2-year deal worth up to $12.2 million. It's a great deal for Rush, who was 9-5 as a starter in his career, with a 2-1 touchdown to interception ratio. But it creates a major hole in the roster. Rush served as the number 2 quarterback for the last 7 seasons, while Will Grier is under contract, but he played just 2 regular season games in his career. Even if competition purposes, Dallas needs to add a new quarterback this offseason. Needless to say, Dallas will add a new quarterback if they wait too long, though the Giants may steal their ideal Rush replacement. The Giants will meet with free agent Jameis Winston, and with Aaron Rodgers keeping suitors like the NFC East bottom feeders in limbo, the Giants have already visited with veterans Russell Wilson and Joe Flacco. Rodgers is reportedly waiting for the Vikings to make their quarterback decision. It seems more likely than not that they'll roll with 2024 number 10 overall pick J.J. McCarthy, but anything is possible. Being Rodgers' clear second or third choice, it makes sense why the Giants are doing their due diligence on other free agents. With Rush off the market, Winston is arguably the best of the available quarterbacks. Nothing else, he has the highest ceiling. Winston is the definition of a gunslinger. He famously threw 33 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in 2019 with the Bucs. He unironically led the league in passing yards that season, which also happened to be his last with Tampa Bay. With that said, he's had serviceable campaigns with the Saints in 2021, and last year he revived a previously anemic Browns offense. The former number 1 overall pick has never learned to reel it in. He's as careless as any quarterback when dropping back to pass, but he'd give the Cowboys offense a relatively high floor if Prescott were to miss time, relative to Rush's conservative game manager style of play. course, the major caveat with Winston is salary. Rush and Jacoby Brissett both got over $6 million per year as backups. Stands to reason the 31-year-old Winston could fetch more on the open market. It's a long shot, but Winston would make a lot of sense for Dallas, both from a competitive and entertainment standpoint. And now on to our next topic. A shocking release is giving Cowboys the chance to reunite with their former star. Cornerback was arguably the biggest need for the Dallas Cowboys when the season ended. Didn't take long into the free agency frenzy for it to make the leap to number one when the Jaguars made Jordan Lewis the game's highest paid nickel corner. It was a deserved payday for Lewis, albeit one that Dallas should have given him after the 2023 season when he was one of the top team's best defenders in the final 2 months. The Cowboys have yet to sign a cornerback, but they at least traded for former Bills first-round pick Kaiir Elam. Apologies for butchering his name. While a viable depth piece, he cannot be trusted to start opposite Deron Bland to start the season. In need of an experienced corner, Dallas reportedly made a run at Ravens free agent Brandon Stevens before he got a 3-year, $36 million deal from the Jets. That was the first we've heard of the front office taking a swing at a cornerback in free agency. The market is drying up fast, but the door has burst open for Dallas to reunite with a former star after a surprising release. Chidobe Awuzie was released by the Titans over the weekend, 1 year into a 3-year contract he signed last March. A groin injury limited Awuzie to 8 games in 2024. His release came just days before he was owed a $3.98 million roster bonus on Monday. It's a puzzling move for Tennessee, though, being it will cost $12.5 million in dead money. That is of no concern to the Cowboys, however. They are desperate for a starting caliber corner, and Awuzie has started 81 games in his 8 seasons in the league. He's also a former second-round pick of Dallas in 2017. He started 6 games as a rookie and went on to become an integral piece in their secondary before he left as a free agent after the final year of his rookie contract. In 4 seasons, Awuzie logged 4 interceptions and an impressive 36 passes defended. He's been targeted 456 times in his career and has allowed just a 60.5% completion rate as the nearest defender per PFF. Simply put, he's a good player when healthy, and he's played over 4,300 snaps on the outside in his career, compared to just 211 in the slot. The 29-year-old is the ideal placeholder for Trayvon Diggs, who could miss most of the season after off-season knee surgery. Fresh off being released, it's doubtful he will fetch a big contract. He has a history with the Cowboys and was on the team when the new defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus was the linebackers coach, so there's a familiarity there as well. A reunion makes perfect sense for both sides. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And with that, on to our next topic, of course. And that is Ian Rappaport's terrifying Cowboys report reeks of a pre-draft smokescreen by the Joneses. While the free agency frenzy has slowed down in week 2, the Dallas Cowboys have made some sound pickups along the way. It would still benefit from adding veterans at cornerback, linebacker, receiver, and nose tackle. But by improving their depth at a myriad of positions, they are primed to take the best player available with the number 12 pick in the 2025 draft. What's particularly noteworthy is that the Cowboys have added mostly defensive players in free agency. Between Dante Fowler Jr., Solomon Thomas, Jack Sanborn, Kenneth Murray, and Kaiir Elam, most of the team's new additions have been of the defensive variety. That's not to say that defense is a finished product. It's nowhere close to that. However, don't be shocked if Dallas goes offense heavy with its first few picks. Wide receiver, running back, and offensive line should all be in the mix. But NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport has a different viewpoint that will shake Cowboy fans to their core. Rappaport firmly believes Dallas will draft a quarterback this year after longtime backup Cooper Rush signed a 2-year deal with the Ravens. That's been the expectation for weeks. The kicker, though, is that Rappaport said they could take a quarterback as early as the 1st or 2nd round. While the draft is still well over a month away, it is officially smokescreen season. This report reeks of a smokescreen. Many rumors that get leaked over the next several weeks won't be true. That isn't to say Rappaport doesn't have trustworthy sources. He's well established as one of the NFL's best and most dependable insiders. He wouldn't leak this report out of the blue. That said, it's nearly impossible to believe Dallas would target a quarterback in the 1st or 2nd rounds. Not only did they just give Dak Prescott $60 million per year and $231 million guaranteed, but they have too many holes on the roster to take a backup early. Draft experts Mel Kiper Jr. from ESPN and Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Networks had the Cowboys drafting UNC running back Omarion Hampton and Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden number 12 overall in their latest mock drafts. Taking a running back in round 1 would create a world of questions, but is far more realistic than a quarterback. The same can be said about the second round. If Dallas takes Golden at number 12, a running back needs to be a consideration for the number 44 pick. If it's not a running back, a defensive tackle would absolutely move the needle. In that case, running back might be the target with the 73rd pick. We haven't even talked about cornerback, which is the biggest question mark on the roster following Lewis's departure. Assuming the front office doesn't make a splash at cornerback in free agency, it has to take one with one of its first 3 picks. Rappaport is right to question what kind of quarterback the Cowboys will get if they wait until day 3. But again, they have a $60 million starter between Jalen Miller, Quinn Ewers, Riley Leonard, or Kyle McCord. There are plenty of intriguing draft and develop options. Reaching on a quarterback in round 1 or 2 would be detrimental to the team's hopes of winning at the highest level in 2025 and beyond. And it could potentially alienate Prescott. It's a recipe for disaster, no matter how you slice it. So let me know your thoughts on the topics we've covered in the comment section below. As always, give us a thumbs up if you like our video, hit that subscribe button down below, hit the bell notification button to be notified of future videos, and if you want to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/thebigd. As always, thank you so much for watching and listening. We will see you next time.